Greetings, and today is the last day before the Gwent expansion comes out, and I'm looking very forward to it. And it looks like the moderator team, the overview video just revealed 11 new cards. So I saw this while I was at work, and I wanted to take a first look at the cards before I sort of gave you my thoughts on them. And I'm glad that two of these cards that are two iconic cards are coming back, which is great. I can't wait to talk about them. And here's the list. Quite a few cards actually up here in this box right here. And now without further ado, let's get straight to it. So of course, one of the iconic cards coming back is we have Shaunie. She is a 9 provision with 5 power and 2 armor for 7 overall life. And she has a formation keyword, and on order you give an allied unit 1 vitality for 1 turn and 1 armor. And if she is inspired, then you give an allied unit vitality for 2 turns and 1 armor instead. In my opinion, if it wasn't for charged, I think she was gonna be, or if it wasn't for charge, I thought of her as somewhat of a weak unit. But she is actually pretty decent support. She has pretty good support in charge givers such as the Centurion Envoy, the Aretuza Adept, Thaler, stuff like that. So as long as she has the supply of charges, she's not going to be that weak of a card because she provides armor, she provides progressive boosting. Of course, you don't want to get greedy with the boosting and apply it on one person, because a lot of the cards that are coming out are cards that do quite a bit of counter on sort of tall removal cards. And same goes with armor as well, as you guys will see later on. But Shaunie is a pretty strong card. She's another one that's good for support on the armor decks. Plus she is a good support for charge decks as well, so she can provide support for cards that require armor, so the barricades and defenders and such like that. And she is also supported by cards with charge, because if she gets a gradual charge from the Aretuza Adept, she can help keep the stronger engines alive longer, so she can boost up the Aretuza infantries and stuff like that. And she can also be supported herself, because at 7 overall life, she's not too powerful. She can be removed. Of course, it's not going to be done by one card, just because of the available cards that are out there that can do 7 damage, which there isn't none. It's always either 6 or 8 plus. So Shaunie should be interesting. I can't wait to see her in Northern Realms decks. Should be great. The second iconic card, of course, is Philippa, an 11 provision with 1 power, and her ability is almost exactly the same as the original Philippa that was in Gwent. I believe she's called Philippa Blind Fury here. Yeah, Philippa Blind Fury. So instead of dealing 5 damage first and 4, 3, 2, 1, she does 4 to a unit and then 3, 2, 1 on random enemy units. So again, it's that whole damage output being decreased a little bit here from her ability, but still being able to do 10 overall damage, even if it is dispersed, or not dispersed, spread, using the wrong word, forgive me, English ain't my first language. It's still pretty strong, just because that 4 is chosen, so you can choose, and 4 does have the capabilities of removing a tall unit, whereas the 3, 2, 1, not so much, but you can still provide some decent disruption, like you can remove units with some relatively low armor that could potentially ruin barricade or exposed abilities, and stuff like that. So she won't be as powerful, just simply because of the amount of support that armor is getting now, and the amount of armor decks that I'll be expecting to see once the expansion comes out tomorrow. So she won't be as powerful, but like damage such as this is still pretty powerful anyway, so I'm glad that she's back. Next, we have Morkvarg, True Enemy, Heart of Terror, my mistake. Morkvarg, True Heart of Terror, there you go, forget that name. He is a pirate, so he's going to be supported by pirate and ships deck. 10 provision with 5 power and 1 armor for 6 overall life. And upon on deploy, you damage an enemy unit by 1, and the ability keeps repeating until it is damaged. So when it's no longer boosted or it's no longer its base power. So this card's a pretty big counter against cards that want to get greedy. So I know Consume Monster is going to be like that. You can use this to target the Slizzards if they decide to get far too greedy in their eating abilities. So Morkvarg Heart of Terror pretty much just cancels any big monster that, or any monster that gets big from eating. So this card is a pretty big counter to that as well. Also to this Valblood Priest, who want to keep getting power from its ability where it's boosted by 2 and then takes 1 power from the unit to its right. So this card is a pretty big answer to those kinds of cards, and if players just decide to get greedy in general, this is sort of their punishment for doing that. So you gotta be careful about wanting to get greedy, especially when you play against a Skellige deck, because as pirates and ships, only they're the ones that are good at being greedy. So they can't let anyone else do it, you know? I don't blame them. It's kind of poetic too in a way. Next we have Figgis Melluzzo. He is a scoia'tael unit, 9 provision with 4 power and 2 armor for 6 overall life. He has the defender keyword, and on deploy he spawns 2 rowdy dwarves on this row. So I was just thinking yesterday, when Surrender came out, it is gonna be the ultimate counter to all rowdy dwarf style decks. And I believe that Surrender is what do you call it? I believe it's a neutral card. So that actually, yeah, it's a neutral card. So Surrender is actually gonna be super scary. Just because A, it's already a stronger lacerate, so you're already gonna have a reason to put it in the deck anyway. And B, it's just gonna be a big counter to these decks, especially rowdy. Like, it literally makes rowdy dwarves obsolete. So if Surrender is managed to put on at a very opportune time when the player gets greedy, then they're not going to get any more bonuses from Control Dwarves, and I know that Control Dwarves is now getting a massive boost. So obviously Surrender is literally the one card that counters the entire meta. So I don't know how I feel about that, to be perfectly honest, just because of how powerful it is. But still, being able to spawn 2 rowdy dwarves on the row is still pretty strong. That's some pretty decent control. That's extra 4 power and 2 armor right there. And plus, it can help trigger some control cards. I believe one of them is coming up, so we'll get to see that for sure. And I like the artwork. Again, I'm very impressed with the artwork. Like, they really did well on it. Well, except I mean, I wouldn't say except these two, because like they were already good last time, so they're good this time. This is the card I was talking about. We have Zoltan Warrior, I believe. On deploy, if you deploy on the melee row, you get to spawn 2 rowdy dwarves. So similar to Figgis. But I'd be more interested with this card being used in the range row, in which you boost all allied rowdy dwarves by 2. Now, this card doesn't provide the same kind of support that Dennis Cranmer does, because Dennis Cranmer boosts all dwarves on a row by 2. By 1. So in a way, this card is stronger just because of the amount of cards that let you bring out rowdy dwarves. It's just gonna get crazy out there. If you can get this card off before a surrender is activated, then you've just protected your rowdy dwarves from being annihilated by surrender. Because usually, if it was me, I wouldn't play surrender as early as I can, but I also wouldn't wait until, you know. So you kind of have to gauge when you're willing to play surrender, because you can really only play it once. So you gotta be careful about that one as well, because it is a pretty valuable card, especially against a deck that's going to want to play a lot of rowdy dwarves, and I can suspect that there are going to be decks that are going to play a lot of rowdy dwarves. I, of course, being one of them, because I love the dwarves from the scoia'tael faction. I just love having them in my deck. It's just a lot of fun. And arguably they're probably my favorite faction in like any fantasy game that I play. So there's that. So yeah, pretty powerful guy. Actually, 12 provision though. It's actually pretty expensive as well. So you don't just want to waste it on the melee row, because this card already does it, and he's only at 9 provision. Plus he has defender, so he can protect his engines as well. So best to use it on the range row. Of course, the melee row is there as sort of a getaway plan in case a surrender is played, and you sort of are out of options for this. Like I say, you've lost all your rowdy dwarves. Of course, I believe surrender only works on 1 row anyway, so it's not like they're going to damage everyone. Otherwise, that'd be ultimate power. So unless you sort of evenly spread your dwarves, I think you should be fine, because this card affects every rowdy dwarf, whether it's on the melee or ranged, or both. So, but at 12 provision, 6 power, 1 armor for 7 overall life, it's still a really expensive card to have, but it is a rather beneficial one if you can get its range ability off, and I would want to do it just for its ranged ability. Again, the melee is just sort of a getaway plan, so it's nice to have. Next we have Azar Javed. I believe he is the 3rd character from The Witcher 1's main enemy that is coming onto Gwent. I am surprised they completed the trifecta, and I'm pretty happy about it. So he is a syndicate, Salamandra, along with the Professor and Savola. Is the Professor I believe the professor is a Salamandra. He is. Okay, so they are finishing the trifecta. Awesome. So, it is a syndicate card. It is a 9 provision with 3 power. It has a profit 3, and on deploy you spawn a scarab on this row, and on tribute 3 you can spawn 2 scarabs. So obviously you're not going to know anything about this card unless you know what a scarab does, and it's right here. So a scarab is a defender, so a scarab can definitely protect your syndicate engines. So again, you're gonna have a lot of coin collectors coming up. Well, they're not actually cards, just cards that collect coin for you. The scarabs are actually gonna be able to protect them, which is great, unless of course they're targeted by an AoE, in which case you can't do nothing about it. Which is why the tribute 3 of allowing you to spawn 2 scarabs, as weak as it may sound, as bad as it may sound, because they're only at 1 power 2 armor, that's 2 defenders on a row right there. So if they don't have an AoE and they have to sort of spend one turn getting rid of one and then the other getting rid of the other, for some reason they can't get rid of both, you've just managed to protect your engines for 1 turn. Not to mention letting your opponent use a couple of their resources just to get rid of some merely scarabs. And something else that's even more powerful: if they are dead, if they die, then you gain 2 coins. So you essentially get a profit of 1 when you use its tribute ability and both scarabs die. Of course, I mean, they can always be locked, of course, but I really doubt that they're going to want to waste their time locking it. Sure, it gets rid of the defender keyword, but I feel like I'd use the lock for like more valuable units, so like the coin collectors and even Bincy. So this card is actually pretty powerful despite it being a 9 for 3 initially. Profit 3 plus 3, so it's a 9/6. Now of course you're gonna want to I would want to use its tribute ability to summon 2 defenders to protect my coin makers. So this card is, don't be fooled just because he looks powerful. He is powerful. So there's that. And next card we have Gascon Iron Falcon. On deploy he creates and plays a Bronze Bandit card, 10 provision, 4 power, and 3 armor for 7 overall life. So I'm pretty happy that we're getting to see a bit of bandit support here, which is great. Not too much I can say about this. I believe most of the Bronze Bandit cards are sort of the disruptors for armor. So I believe there's one bandit that takes out armor. But the thing is, it can also, I don't know if there are any bandits from so for, oh no, it can't create this. It's a gold. Sorry, I can only create Bronze Bandit cards. So I'm pretty sure that most of the bandit cards sort of do. Give me 1 second here while I go take a quick look. There are a lot of cards that came out. I'm actually kind of surprised they almost released their entire So for example, this card right here. So of course a lot of the bandit cards sort of do disruptive effects, so either give you bleeding, I think some do damage, and some sort of get rid of your armor. So right here, or even give armor. So bandits have these like little everyday abilities that can be pretty good as well. Sappers as well. This is the one card I thought was pretty good. Removing a unit's armor, Gascon can spawn this as well. And 5 power is pretty good. Removing a unit's armor, you can remove it completely. So you can disrupt extra removal for barricades, or not extra removal, extra disruption for barricades. You're triggering exposed abilities, and you're pretty much making them vulnerable to damage output attacks. Sorry if I'm scrolling so much, I should just do this instead. So this card does have some value. It's pretty strong actually, and I'm glad to see that bandit's getting a bit of support. So can't wait to make a bandit stylish deck. Next we have Geralt. I believe this is Geralt Axii. It's not shown here, but yes, it is Geralt Axii. So it is a 10 provision, 5 power, and 2 armor for 7 overall life. It is a neutral card, and on deploy you get to purify and reset a unit. So I see this as like, I wouldn't say it's a weaker version of Erdrin, because Erdrin resets units in 1 row. But that can be a double-edged sword as well, because if you have 1 unit who's severely damaged and 1 unit who's severely boosted, then Geralt Idrin's just sort of going to balance it out, and it's really not going to make too much of a difference. With this card, however, being able to single-handedly target a unit, not to mention purify and reset it if it has any sort of buffs, so it'll remove shield. It can also remove the bad debuffs, so such as lock, poison, bounty, etc. This card could help you out as well, especially if your unit has been severely damaged from pings and damage output cards. So this card is pretty good, even though it's a singular target as opposed to Erdrin where it's a row target. So I'm probably going to be seeing, and 5 power actually, it's pretty powerful. So again, this card will punish any tall monster, or not, I'm saying tall unit, I should say. Any tall unit that their opponent decides to get greedy by giving boost after boost after boost for. So I'm glad to see cards that are finally being able to punish tall removal cards. I mean, of course, there's already a lot of cards that do that, but they're just adding more. So you just gotta be careful about dispersing, or not. I keep using the wrong word. Spreading your boosts. So try not to use them all, of course, and don't put all your eggs in one basket. So it's essentially what the message of this card is. And I like the artwork. Geralt, look, this is the most evil I've seen Geralt, even though he is trying to be suspicious. Next card here, we have Iris Shade. She is a neutral card, 10 provision for 5 power, and she has a pretty good ability. I think she had the similar to ability to, I don't know if it's the Gwent Cavalry or the Redanian Cavalry, where back in the old Gwent, where it was a bronze cavalry card that lets you remove armor and get boost equal to that armor. This one, they're just giving it to one gold card, but I think it's a good idea simply because of the amount, again, the amount of support that armor is getting now compared to before. So being able to remove a unit's armor and boosting self by that amount. Of course, she can use it to either A, disrupt an opponent's barricade and expose ability, or B, she can use it to sort of get armor from your own unit if you notice that one of your units is getting a bit too much armor that they don't necessarily need, and boost herself by that amount. Of course, for you to get that full benefit, you want to be able to get 5 armor from one unit. So for example, if your opponent has Good Brothers, she can be a good counter to Good Brothers by absorbing their ammo, and I believe the Good Brothers die from that ability if they are exposed. Same thing with the Living Armor, or Spectral Armor, I can't remember what it's called. It was the 10-10 where the health is always equal to its armor. If you use, she is pretty much the death wish of that card. You play her, you see a Living Armor. I'm not sure if anyone's gonna play it, to be perfectly honest, just because of how much of a really ticking time bomb that card is. Then she can just simply absorb that monster's armor and pretty much just annihilate it to the ground and turn it to nothing. So she essentially became a 20-point swing, no, 25-point swing because of her base power as well. So you gotta be careful of what cards you play, because I'm expecting to see Iris Shade to be in quite a bit of decks because she has a very unique ability that can do quite a bit of damage. So gotta be careful about that as well. And I believe this is the last card on the list. It is a version of Olgierd, and it is Olgierd Immortal. He is a neutral card, 10 provision with 7 power, and this card's power cannot be changed. That's interesting. I've never quite seen a card that has this kind of ability before. The thing I like about it is this card can't be damaged at all. But the downside is it can't be boosted, so it's going to be flat at 7. So what on earth can you use it for? Quite a few things, actually. It can be consumed, and you're always going to be guaranteed a 7 consumed. You can lock it, I guess, if you want to boost it, but I don't think you want to waste your lock on something like that. But the initial thought I have of what this card could be good for is potentially a sort of armor storage. So if you have cards that sort of give a lot of armor, and you don't want that armor to go away, or if you're saving it up for, let's say, an Iris Shade, you can just pack them on to Olgierd. Because I really don't think, or I really shouldn't think that your opponent would want to damage this card just to get rid of armor, because they're getting no benefit from it to start off with. And B, if you collected enough armor, of course, you don't want to be too greedy just because of those tall removal cards that are sort of coming out, not to mention Geralt Axii that lets you reset a unit. Then you have Iris Shade to sort of take that from him. That's the sort of initial combo that I'm thinking right now, but once I sort of take a closer look at all of the cards sort of together, then I have a better idea on sort of what the full potential of these cards could be. But the fact that this card's power cannot be changed, even if, I mean, it's only a 10 for 7, so I get that it is a -3 in terms of provision equals power, but you can still, this card can be considered one of the more flexible ones just because of what you can do with it. And right now, that's the best thing I can think of is sort of the armor storage. So you can potentially boost it with Shaunie, but of course it can't be boosted, so it's probably not going to be worth it because the card's power cannot be changed anyway. But that's sort of the initial thought. I'm pretty sure you guys will have better combos out there for this card, but I think this card is just pretty versatile and pretty flexible. The fact that it can't be destroyed, so it's pretty much stuck on the field for the whole turn, unless of course it gets scorched. Curse of Corruption, it's not immune to those sort of removal kind of cards, Gigni for example, so it's not, because it's not changing the power, it's just outright destroying it. But if you use damage output cards, then of course he's going to be immune to that, but also to boost, so you got to be careful of that as well. So that's I believe this is the last list before the expansion comes out tomorrow, because when the expansion comes out, there's no more need for card reveals, right? So I'm gonna have a second video coming out today. I just came back from work, which is why everything's gonna be sort of crunched up tonight. I'm gonna have this card, the last list, and the next video will be about the Gwent 4.0 update, and some of the cards that are being changed are pretty interesting as well. So I sort of want to go through them as well and talk to you guys about it, and let me know what you guys' thoughts are. So leave a like on this video if you guys enjoyed it, and subscribe for more Gwent videos. Other than that, this is Enzo signing out. I'll catch you guys on the next one.